I would like to welcome my guest, who is a psychologist as well as a coach and mentor, and she is the founder of Post Betrayal Transformation Institute. Is that correct?
The
Okay,
PBT Institute, Post Betrayal Transformation. That's it.
Post Betrayal Transformation. Here is my guest, Dr. Debi Silber. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, same here. So, can you just tell us a little bit about the betrayal and the type of betrayal that people, either yourself or anyone, may have experienced? Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, I mean, there are so many different types. Really, the way it works, I define betrayal as the breaking of a spoken or unspoken rule, and every relationship has them. And the way it works is the more we trust, the more we depend on someone, the bigger the betrayal. So, a child, for example, right, and the parent does something awful, they're completely dependent on that parent. The parent does something bad, that's going to have a bigger impact than, let's say, your best friend sharing your secret, right? Still lots of cleanup in its left in its wake, but not the same magnitude. So yeah, I mean, I don't, think about it. I don't think anybody ever says, "Oh, I think I want to study betrayal." No, it's my 30th year in business, and I had a family betrayal, and then a couple years, and I thought I was like, okay, I think I healed and did everything I needed to do. A couple years later, it was my husband. So anybody who's been through it, you're shocked, you're blindsided, you're devastated. Life as you've known it is not the same. But I looked at the two experiences, and I was like, well, what's similar to these two things? And I realized I never took my own needs seriously. Boundaries were getting crossed. And I was like, that's it. Something's got to change. So got him out of the house. And here I was, 4 kids, 6 dogs, thriving business. And I
Wow.
was 50 years old. And I was like, going back for a PhD. I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. I didn't know how I was going to do it. And I was like, that's it. And it was in transpersonal psychology. So that's the psychology of transformation and human potential. Because I was changing so much, I didn't understand it. He was too on his own, wasn't ready to look at that yet. And then it was time to do a study. So I studied betrayal. What holds us back? What helps us heal? And what happens to us physically, mentally, and emotionally when the people closest to us lie, cheat, and deceive? And that study led to 3 groundbreaking discoveries, which changed my health, my family, my business, my life.
Wow. That's interesting. I mean, I think we've all experienced that at some point in our lives, some type of betrayal, whether it's with our spouse, family member, or coworker, whatever. I think some people have experienced it in some type of way. So, what would you say are the 5 stages of betrayal
Yeah.
to breakthrough that you discovered in your own study?
That was when this discovery was made. This was so exciting because now healing from betrayal has a roadmap. Like there's a predictable. That was one of the discoveries that while we stay stuck for years, decades, a lifetime, and so many of us do, if we're going to fully heal, we're going to move through 5 now proven predictable stages. And what's even more exciting is we know what happens physically, mentally, emotionally at every one of those stages. And we know what we need to do to move from one stage to the next. So I map them all out in Trust Again. It's what we teach within the PBT Institute. Would you like, I mean, I'm happy to share them.
Of course, that was my next question. Because some people are stuck in
Yeah,
that phase of they can't understand what happened, what he did wrong, what did I do wrong, where
right.
did we go wrong? So they're
Yeah.
stuck in that and they don't want to change their story. They want to stuck being the victim, I would say,
And
rather
that
than
is,
coming out victorious.
yeah, and that is so common to the most common place to get stuck. And as I go through it, you'll see exactly where it is. So the first is like a setup stage. And if you imagine 4 legs of a table, the 4 legs being physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. What I saw with everybody was this real heavy lean on the physical and the mental, thinking and doing, right? Not really prioritizing the other 2 legs, which were the emotional and the spiritual. That's the feeling and being, right? So that's where intuition lies. We turn that down. Anyway, if the table only has 2 legs, easy to topple over, that's us. And
Mhm.
stage 2 is by far the scariest of all the stages. And this is the shock, D-Day, Discovery Day. And this is the breakdown of the body, the mind, and the worldview. So what happens is you ignite the stress response. You are headed for every single stress related symptom, illness, condition, disease. Your mind is in a complete state of chaos and overwhelm. This makes no sense, right? You can't wrap your mind around what you just
Right.
learned. And your worldview is shattered. Your worldview is your mental model. This person's safe, don't go there. These are the rules, and in a moment, everything you've known to be real and true is no longer. The bottom has bottomed out on you. But think about it. If that were to happen, you'd grab hold of anything you could to stay safe and stay alive. That's stage 3. Survival instincts emerge. It's the most
Right.
practical of all of the stages. If you can't
Right.
help me, get out of my way. How do I survive this experience? Where do I go? Who can I trust? How do I feed my kids? Here's the trap, though. This is the most common place to get stuck, and here's why. Once you've figured out how to survive, because it feels so much better than the shock and trauma of where you just came from, you think it's good. So you're like, okay, all right, we can do this. We got this. And you have no idea there's a stage 4 and stage 5 waiting. Transformation doesn't even happen and start until stage 4. So a few things start happening, and this is to answer your question. The first thing is you start planting some roots here, and you start getting these small self benefits. You get to be right. You get your story. You get someone to blame. You get a target for your anger. You get sympathy from everybody you tell your story to. You don't have to do the hard work of learning to trust again. Do I trust you? Do I trust you? I forget, I'm not trusting anybody. And you start planting deeper roots. And because you're here for a while, and you're not supposed to be, but you don't know that, because you're here for a while, now your mind starts doing things like, well, maybe you're not all that. Maybe you deserved it. Maybe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Deeper roots. And then like energy attracts like energy. So now you're calling situations and circumstances and relationships towards you to confirm this is where you belong. And you don't.
Right.
Gets worse, but I'll
Right.
get you out of here. Because you don't know there's anything better, you don't know about stage 4, stage 5, you resign yourself to like, well, this is it. So I better find a way to make this work. So right here is where you start using food, drugs, alcohol, work, TV, keeping busy, reckless behavior, right? To numb, avoid, distract from what's so painful to feel and face. So you do it for a day, a week, a month, now it's a habit, a year, 5, 10, 20 years. And I can see someone 20 years out and say, you know what, that drinking you're doing, or that emotional eating you're doing, or that numbing in front of the TV, you think that has anything to do with your betrayal? And they would look at me like I'm crazy. It
Right.
happened 20 years ago. All they did was put themselves in that stage 3 holding pattern. That makes sense?
It definitely does make sense. I
Yeah.
totally understand it. Yes. Yes.
Right.
So,
So anyway, if you're willing to let go of those benefits, and you have to grieve, you have to mourn the loss, a bunch of things you need to do, you move to stage 4. Stage 4 is finding and adjusting to a new normal. Here's where you acknowledge, I can't undo my betrayal, but I can control what I do with it.
mhm.
So I always use the example of, if you've ever moved to a house, office, condo, apartment, new place, it's like not cozy yet, doesn't have all your stuff there, but it's going to be okay. And when you're in that mental space, you turn down the stress response. You're not healing just yet, but you're not causing the massive damage that was being caused in stages 2 and stage 3. The other thing is, if you were to move, you don't take everything with you, right? You don't take the stuff that doesn't represent the version of you want to be when you're in your new space. And what I saw was, if your friends weren't there for you, you don't take them with you, right? Here's where you've outgrown them. And people say to me all the time, the heck, I've had these friends 10, 20, 30 years. Is it me? Yes, it is. You're undergoing a transformation. They just don't belong. Not always the case, but it happens. Anyway, when you're in stage 4, you're making it cozy, you're making it home, you're feeling okay with it, you move into the 5th most beautiful stage. And this is healing, rebirth, and new worldview. The body starts to heal. Self-love, self-care, eating well, exercise. You didn't have the bandwidth for that earlier. Now you do. Your mind starts to heal. New rules, new boundaries, new everything based on
Mhm.
what you see so clearly now. And you have a new worldview based on your entire trip through the 5 stages. And the 4 legs of the table, it was all about the physical and the mental. By this point, we're solidly grounded because we're focused on the emotional and the spiritual too. Those are the 5 stages.
Exactly. Thank you for sharing that. But what do you ever come across in the midst of those 5 stages where people get stuck, or where they are feeling like, oh, they want to move forward, but they can't, or something else happens, some other type of crisis, because we know life happens, some other type of crisis that'll take them back to where they were before.
Yeah. this is, it's actually two separate answers, because one is when someone is just stuck, that's stage 3. And they may
Mhm.
want to move forward, but they don't want to give up the familiar but small self benefits. They don't want to give up their story. They don't want, like, I remember before, when the PBT Institute was a live physical space. Now we're totally online. And a woman came into my office like this, arms folded across her chest. She's like, I want to heal. I'm like, no, you don't. You got to get rid of all that. You have to let all that go. You have to be willing to let go of your story, which is truly
Right,
serving
right,
you. And that's the thing. We look at it as a lot to give up. We have no idea when we do give it up, the benefits are so much better. Like, you give up your story, right? But you have a way better story. You get your health back. You improve your immune
mhm,
system. You stop that accelerated aging you were doing.
right,
You heal your gut. You heal your mind.
mhm,
You get opportunities you never would have had access to had that, it not happen. So when we realize what's waiting for us, when we give that up, it's a whole different story. Like, think about it. Here I was. I had a very powerful story. The most important people in my life all betrayed me. And sure, I'd get sympathy,
mm,
but instead, look at the story I have now. We're helping thousands of people
right,
because of it. It's a way better story.
right. Right. Yes, we definitely do. We all have our personal stories, and it's from learning from those uh, experiences that we grow and develop, and getting that support that's needed. Because a lot of times people don't have the support. So that's where we come in as coaches, giving them that support and accountability that is required, to help push them through, and to unlock that potential that they have within them. But
That's
the thing is getting them to see it.
You're so right. And here's the thing too, we found the wrong type of support does more harm than good. And people come in
Right.
with therapy trauma. I mean, we see this all the time,
Mhm.
because if someone isn't highly skilled in helping someone work through betrayal, very often the person who's been betrayed gets blamed for the betrayal. I mean, it's like crazy. There are so many crazy
Right.
things. So we have, and it's so interesting because we have members within our community who are, coaches, healers, whatever, and then they can't wait. Then they go through our certification program to become certified,
Mhm.
because they know, first of all, they have that experience, so who knows better than them, right? And then they understand the type of coaching, or the type of counseling that's truly necessary to help somebody move through it. Even support groups, there are some support groups where it's almost like someone shares, and then it's like, oh, you think that's bad, this happened to me. Oh, you think that's bad, this happened to me. Like, what the heck is that doing to help you? So
Right.
it's
Right.
one thing, you need support, but you also need that help to lift and inspire. So very different type of support that's
Mhm.
needed.
That's it. Definitely. Definitely lift and inspire. And I love that. I really do. And I know that you have that holistic approach, such as myself. But tell me now, for you, my question is directly for you.
Yeah.
What is your self-care ritual, and what do you do to practice that self-care? Because even, running a business and you're scheduling and you're doing this and that, sometimes we can get, things just get crazy sometimes. So, what are some of the things that you do to keep yourself going with self care?
Yeah, it's very hard for me because I am such a driver, like, go and do and accomplish, and it's all my head, and sometimes it's like, stop it, because I have experienced burnout more times than I care to comment. I mean, really, it's awful.
Mhm,
And my body
mhm.
always lets me know, you've been pushing way too hard, not in my workouts, just in life. So
Yes,
so I always
yes.
have my morning routine. I take it very seriously, and that's
Hmm.
whether it's journaling, or it's just
Right,
meditation, or
right.
it's just breathing, whatever. And it's funny because I look at journaling, as I realize, I'm like, why do I like journaling so much instead of meditation? And it's because I feel like I'm doing something. So I feel like I'm accomplishing something, and
Right, right,
anyway, so that's really important to me. And then, of course,
right.
eating really well and exercising, and then and
Mhm.
just and laughing, having fun. I think it's just
Oh,
so
yeah.
good for
That's
the
important.
soul. Yeah,
It's
you know,
very important.
for sure, for sure.
So I heard you say about a lot of dogs, but I didn't hear the rest of that. What was the rest of that?
Yeah, we had, actually, there was a time we had 6 dogs. We lost a few. We have 4 dogs now. But
Oh,
yeah, I mean, just to get all that love. So we just, I don't know, I'm a big believer in
right.
surround yourself with as much love as you can, as much beauty as you can, whether that's nature, whatever it is. So, just
Yes.
whatever it is that makes you feel good. I mean, that's the whole idea.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that information. What other final thoughts or advice would you like to give our audience?
I would say the first thing is, if you have to say this 100 million times, it's worth it. Just because it happened to you, it's not about you. It's not. And you've been through the worst of it already. You owe it to yourself to heal. And then I would just recommend, one of the other discoveries was that there's this collection of symptoms, physical, mental, and emotional, so common to betrayal. It's known as post betrayal syndrome. So I would really recommend everybody take the post betrayal syndrome quiz. So you see to what extent you're struggling. And they can just find that at the PBT, as in post betrayal transformation, thepbtinstitute.com/quiz.
And we'll have all of that information in the episode. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up because I know you have another interview scheduled. I thank you so much for taking the time out with me. And listen, you guys, listen, join her program if you're able to do that. Her Facebook group, give the support and take the benefit, take the information. Don't just soak it in, but use the information, apply it. Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank
Silber.
you. Thanks for the opportunity.